And my computer is being weird again, so we're just going to pick up where we left off. So you would just focus in that one paragraph on the idea that you're comparing and contrasting, or comparing or contrasting. And with idea, it's always going to be a contrasting idea. That's just how I've paired the articles. That's all you'd focus on in that one paragraph. So main takeaway, some ideas to keep in mind for essay number 2 are, again, the introduction should begin by talking about your topic and gradually move into discussing both of your articles, and then have a thesis statement. The thesis statement should have 3 points. One of those should be an angle or idea in the 3 articles, and if that's similar or different. And then beyond that, you've got the ability and the freedom to kind of branch out and compare and contrast something like tone, rhetorical appeals, etc. Something else that I would go ahead and write down is you should not agree or disagree with the articles at any step in the writing process for essay number 2. Your tone the entire way through should be completely non-opinionated, and that does mean that you do not want to stop and state whether or not one text is more effective than the other. I know we did that for essay 1, right? We kind of stopped. We considered, well, which text is most effective, or not which, but is the text at hand effective, right? For this paper, you are simply looking at each text and considering the fact that each text approaches the same idea. You're removing yourself completely from the conversation. You're not agreeing with the articles. You're not disagreeing with the articles. All you are doing is bringing to life how a relationship between the 2 articles can be formed. And something that you might consider doing if you're kind of looking at an example of what I'm looking for. Again, it's not my property when I post student essays. It's the student's property. But if you go to assignments and then you click essay 2, there are some sample papers in the essay 2 folder that you could look over. The ILC is also very familiar with this. And then, of course, I'm available for virtual tutoring, and we'll grade the pre-writing to see what kind of start you're off to. When you turn the pre-writing in on June 3rd, please make sure that you provide textual support from each article, and that you cite that textual support. If you're working with a document that has a PDF, those have page numbers, right? So that would be something to keep in mind. If you're working with a website, all that's really required is the author's last name and parentheses at the end of a sentence, or in the sentence itself. But if you've got page numbers, you will credit those in the PDF. Okay. Something else to keep in mind for this assignment would be that you will take the time to, and let me get my computer just so we can kind of look at the final due date as well, because I know we've talked about the pre-writing but not the final due date. Make sure that you do not use first person I in this paper. That'll be super important. So you want to keep in mind that throughout the, let's move this over here. Okay. Throughout the entire paper, you're kind of removing yourself from the conversation, which is quite hard. I'm aware that that's a difficult thing to do. It's one of the more challenging aspects of this assignment, but it's not really about you. It's more about how you as a scholar can step back and ask yourself, well, how can I objectively consider the ways in which these 2 articles can be compared or contrasted? Something else that I would note down would be that you do have the ability to compare a point or contrast a point. So when you're doing the idea part, which is going to be your first point, the angle of the article, that's going to be a difference just because I've paired combinations that are centered around differences, okay? However, if you are doing something like tone or a rhetorical appeal, you might have a contrast, or you might actually have a similarity, okay? So that's going to be up to you. Something else that I want to stress for this assignment is that it will be pertinent, in other words, key and vital to use transitional phrases when you switch from one article to the next article, okay? So you'll have your body paragraphs constructed of maybe 3 sentences about one of the articles, and then you move into another article. You have to use a transitional phrase when you move from one article to the next. It is necessary. Otherwise, the paper itself just reads as summary, right? So if you don't use transitional phrases, then the paper is going to accidentally read as summary when you don't mean for it to. And while summary was part of Essay 1, there's not really summary in this paper, okay? And I'm just going to get the due date really quickly for Essay 2 for you guys. Let's see. So if you're in 0021, so it's due June 15th, so Monday, June 15th, which leaves you plenty of time to meet with me. I believe that's the same day that we've got our grammar midterm, so you want to go ahead and start studying for that. If you want to find the outline for the grammar midterm, you go to Resources on Blackboard, click Grammar Outline and Notes, and then there's a link like this that's called Study Notes for Grammar Test. Okay, it looks like this. It initially said MLA as well, but I am not going to be including MLA on the test anymore. The test itself actually looks exactly like this study packet, and it does mimic a lot of the quizzes that you've been doing for homework. And if you've been keeping up with the reading and the rules for writer's book, that should definitely be helpful for you as well. But of course, let me know if you've got questions any step of the way. Both I and the ILC can help you study for that. What I've got here, okay, so those are just some other key ideas actually to keep in mind for Essay 2, right? So you're removing yourself from the conversation. I would say that if you look at the prompt, I've kind of outlined the length of the assignment as well as the amount of quotes that you want to use. So I'm just going to pull that up. I'm not really reading verbatim off of that just because I know that's super boring and that you can do that yourself. However, this one's a little bit longer, 3.5 to 4 pages, double spaced. I will send an announcement out about how to do the works cited page, and of course, I'm happy to look that over, and so is the ILC. Also, you should have at least 4 quotations, but no more than 6, okay? At least 4 direct quotations, but no more than 6. And where you want to use your direct quotations is in the body paragraphs, okay? So to bring to life how the ideas work in each piece, right? To bring to life how the tone in each article can be analyzed and comes to life, because you are not writing to an audience who is familiar with the articles that you have chosen. So that would be something else to kind of write down, note down. Your audience, just like with essay number 1, is not really aware of the 2 articles. It's your job to educate the audience on the 2 articles and how those operate. So that means that you have to provide textual support so that the audience can better comprehend and understand how and in what way the 2 texts work, right? You're the expert, so you're kind of not thinking about the audience as the class or as me or as the author. Nobody who's read these articles before. It's going to be up to you to kind of show us how we can connect the articles together and how we can run them contrast them from one another. Where you can find a really good resource for transitions, I do have it linked on Blackboard. If you click on resources on the left-hand side, this is one of my favorite websites. You can see it's this here. It's called Transitions website, okay? What that does is it opens up the UNC Chapel Hill Transitions website. And this is a pretty good website for talking about the function and importance of transitions in academic writing. We don't really speak in transitions, but they are a key and pivotal part of academic writing. So it's kind of something that you just have to get used to working with. But it goes over how to organize transitions, and kind of like I said in a past video, transitions are like a turn signal when you're driving, right? So they kind of signal to the audience what direction you're going in. The audience isn't going to understand if your two works are similar to one another or different in a way unless you show them with the transitional phrase. If you scroll to the very bottom of this page, what I really like is there's this chart. It looks like this. Okay, so the very first two actually have to do with similarity and then contrast. And you can see that these are kind of terms that you want to integrate into the paper when you move from one work to the next. So to show similarity, really simple transitions, right? Like likewise, similarly. To show contrast, similar terms in terms of they're very concise, they're very clear, they're not hard to use, right? So on the other hand, nevertheless, nonetheless, contrastingly, and contrast, etc. Please vary the transitions that you use throughout the entire essay. So in other words, if you're showing a similarity, please don't say similarly 100 times, kind of vary it a bit. So go maybe back and forth into in the same way, jump to likewise, jump to similarly. Vary your word choice as much as you possibly can, okay? But do know that that really is an important function of the comparison contrast paper that we're doing, because it shows the logical relationship between the two articles, and you have to take the time to bring that to life for the audience. You will end with a concluding paragraph for this paper, okay? So if you look at the guidelines, so the essay number two, guidelines, and scroll down, there's a lot of stuff I've outlined for you, right? Like what goes in the introduction, what goes in the body, what goes in the conclusion. You can, of course, look this over. You can look at the sample essays, and again, like I talked about in my last video, that outline that I posted, that's helpful as well. In the conclusion, essentially all you're doing is you're merely stating what it is that you accomplished in the essay. So we're using what's called a full circle pattern. So you're going to kind of echo maybe an opening idea from your introductory paragraph. You're going to take the time to restate the thesis, but you're going to do so in new terms. Please don't cut and paste the thesis statement. Make sure that you take the time to word it differently, okay? But the full circle effect just kind of means you kind of end up where you started, right? So you are going to have a concise conclusion. It should not be more than 5 to 7 sentences, no quotes in the conclusion, and your conclusion should kind of synthesize. Again, that's just a fancy way of saying creating a relationship between the two articles, synthesize how the two texts work, and how the two texts can be run parallel to one another or drawn, or a conclusion can be drawn between the two. I do hope that this video is somewhat helpful, but of course I'm available Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5 for virtual tutoring. If that's something you're interested in, then I'm more than happy to set up times with you to look over parts of the essay that you have done. Moving into writing the paper, please make sure that you go to My Grades, and again, you click that blue link that says upload pre-writing for essay number 2 here. You're going to see a little speech bubble on the right hand side of your screen that just indicates that I've left you some feedback. You will see yellow highlights in your chart. That's the document that's due on June 3rd. And what you will do is click where there's yellow highlights so you can see the feedback I gave you that corresponds with that area of the text. And of course, I'm happy to talk over any feedback that is left for you. I'm more than happy to do that. We can work kind of together to ensure, right, that You're on the right track. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I hope that you found this video useful, and send me an email if you've got questions. Reach out for virtual tutoring, which again runs Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5 p.m., 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I look forward to talking to many of you soon, and I hope you are staying safe and well, and have a wonderful day. Bye.